and respect you as does Bob, because Bob Circosta is a guy that you can go to bobcircosta.com, and his last name, BOBCIRCOSTA.com. I was just at his website before we got on, and it's a talking website. This guy was on a radio show with the guy who bought my TV show, the Chicken Soup for the Soul, is Bud Paxton, and you guys were why don't we start there, Bob, and then we're going to show how you 100-fold products, if you don't mind.
Oh, it'd be my pleasure. Let me just, first of all, say what an honor it is to be with you, Mark, and with you, Robert, and all of the listeners here tonight. And I just thank you so very much for inviting me and allowing me the opportunity to share information with everybody and allowing me to be a part of this. So I thank you two very, very much.
Okay, let's go back to when you guys are a little launched and you're stuck with all that hardware that won't sell.
How did it start? How did this billion-dollar, how many billions of products have been sold through Home Shopping Network? Do you have any idea?
Well, right now, the entire home shopping industry is over $6 billion.
A year.
A year. That is just home shopping channels. That does not include infomercials. That does not include 2-minute spots or anything like that. That is purely television home shopping. And there are about 4 or 5 home shopping channels, which we can get into later on if you want to identify where they are and for our listeners. But there are about 4 or 5 main players in the business, and they come into about over $6 billion a year. But how it started, I mean, it seems like it was yesterday, but it really went back. It goes back almost 26 years.
And what year was that?
That was 25 years. It'd be 1979.
Okay.
1979. Wow, I'm reminiscing. I'm getting tired as I talk. And it started, like you said, on a very small radio station, and this station was in Clearwater, Florida, very small radio station, and it was on the AM dial, and it was a news talk station. It had nothing to do with selling. We were a news talk station, and I happened to host an afternoon talk show from noon to 3, and I would talk about the issues of the day and politics and things of that nature. But I stress once again, this was a very small radio station.
How many listeners do you have, Bob?
I think 83.
Okay, now you guys had somebody stiff you, which was your best, worst experience. Did Bud Paxton own the show or just that airtime?
No, he owned the entire station, 1470 WWQT, and he owned the entire station. He was the owner, the general manager, he was the janitor. He did everything, of course. And he and his wife would go around town, and they would try to do what every radio station does, and that is sell advertising. But because of the lack of popularity of this particular station, it was not an easy sell. But he would sell a few contracts here and there advertising, and he sold one of these contracts to an appliance store that, as a matter of fact, is still there today on Greenwood Avenue in Clearwater. But he went in and he sold this 13-week advertising contract. And so for 13 weeks, we aired a commercial on our radio station for this appliance store in Clearwater. And at the end of 13 weeks, at the end of that cycle, Bud went into this appliance store to collect on the bill. And the gentleman who owned the appliance store was absolutely furious. When Bud walked in, he said, "Don't even come in here, because no one listens to your station. Not one person mentioned that they heard the commercial for 13 weeks. I'm not going to pay you. I'm having a cash flow problem. I can't pay you, but I don't want to pay you." And so they kind of got back into it a little bit, and Bud was saying, "I've got people back at the radio station. You know, you signed a deal. We had an agreement. You have to pay." He said, "I'm not going to pay." They went back and forth, back and forth. Finally, the gentleman who owned the appliance store said, "I tell you what I'll do. I had a big shipment come in here to the store a couple of hours ago. Back there by the door, there are a couple of big boxes. In lieu of payment in cash for the advertising, take one of those boxes." So Bud picked up the box, had no idea what he was going to do with it, but felt, I guess, better that he had something tangible in his hands, and he put it in the car, got in the car, drove back to the studio. Now, I'm on the air doing my talk show. Once again, talking about politics, not selling, but politics. And so every hour on my radio show, I had a 5-minute news break. So I was taking this little break, sitting in my little booth, not bothering anybody, and pretty soon the door opens. And here comes Bud. And if you've ever seen Bud, he's about 6'7", great guy, but he can make an entrance into any room. And he came into this room, and in the palm of his hand, he had this electric can opener. It was by the Rival Corporation. It was It was one of those ugly green electric can openers. And he looked at me and he said, seriously, he said, Bob, when you come out of the news, I want you to sell this can opener. And I looked at him in total amazement. I said, and I remember what I said to him. I said, Bud, you want me to do what? He said, I want you to sell this. And I said to him, wait a minute, Bud, I'm a newsman. You know, I have morals. I have ethics. You want me to sell something? And then he proceeded to explain the relationship between me selling that can opener and me getting paid at the end of the week. And then I said, that's a pretty nice-looking can opener. So we took the can opener and went on the air, and I came out of the news, and I said, folks, we'll get back to the topic today in just a moment, but you'll never believe what happened during the last break. And I went on to describe the can opener, and I said, if you call in right now, reserve one, come down to the studio and pay for it, it's yours. And the phone line started to light up. And Mark and Robert, it took us about an hour that day, but we sold 112 electric can openers, and that was the beginning of the entire home shopping industry. And from that today, it's over $6 billion. And that's really how it all started, guys.
It scared you. You didn't know what you were doing.
Had no idea.
I didn't know what he was doing, except that you wanted to get paid. Bud needed to get paid to keep everybody in the place rocking.
Exactly. We never sat around a conference room and said, wait a minute, let's come up with an idea for a business. We never did that. This was born out of the need. It just happened to happen because it had to happen in order to keep things going. So I guess a moral would be that no matter how ridiculous you think your idea, your entrepreneurial dream happens to be, if you stay with it, if you work with it, and if you work it, it will work for you, and it can happen. Because you're right, we had no idea what we were doing that day, and no idea back then what would happen in the next 26 years.
Now, what are 5 or 6 other products that started as nothing and just went through the roof? Because we're talking about 100-folding here, Bob.
Right.
So what are some of the products that you guys took from invisibility to phenomenality?
We did very, very well in jewelry. We did the local broadcast, if I can just digress for just a second. We did the local broadcast for about 5 years. And then when they wired the local county for cable, then we went on television. So we did radio for another 5 years and became very, very successful. And then we went into local cable television, and then we were even more successful, and then we went nationwide in the mid-1980s. But before that happened, when we were still local, we would take a lot of jewelry items that people would see in the stores and maybe walk right by, but we were able to bring them to life because we were able to tell a story about them. There were many electronic items. I remember one item one day that they brought in to me, and this is a true story. And they said, Bob, here's one of the items you have for your show today. And I kid you not, it was an AM/FM radio toilet paper dispenser. That was it. So I looked at it and I said, well, are you kidding me? How are we going to sell this? And who would want something like this? I went on the air. We sold almost 4,000 of them in under 5 minutes. And I learned a very valuable lesson that day, that it really is not important that if I like the particular item, my role is to communicate the benefits of what I have and how it's sincerely going to help the other person, which gets into the whole selling technique that we can talk about a little bit later. But as far to answer your question, as far as items that we've brought from obscurity, I mean, items that, dolls and all sorts of category. I mean, you name it. Items that would sit on a store shelf, we were able to bring to life in television and tell a story, and that's what would make it go. And once again, now it's a multi-billion-dollar industry from the simplest items that you can think of.
Well, let's do this one item at a time. You've said tell a story 6 times in a row because I'm writing copious notes.
Okay.
Tell how you tell the story, and then we'll talk about how you sell with the benefits.
Okay, well, I think the first thing that I really want everyone to understand about me is, and I want to make this very clear to everybody, and I speak honestly and truthfully when I say this, I hate to sell. You have to understand that first about me. I despise selling. I hate to sell. And some people might wonder, wait a minute, Bob, I've heard all the information that you've been able to individually sell over $1 billion. How could you hate to sell? It goes back to the early days. Here's what changed it all for me. When I went into Bud's office one day, after being a host on the air for a couple of years on a local basis, and I went in one day to his office, and I quit. I said, Bud, I quit. I can't do this anymore. And he said, what do you mean you quit? I said, if I see one more cubic zirconia diamond, I'm going to scream. I can't do this anymore. He said, why? I said, because I'm not a salesman. I don't want to sell. I don't know how to sell. I have no interest in selling. He said something to me that day, Mark and Robert. He said something to me that changed my professional life. He said, selling has nothing to do with sales. And when he made that statement, it confused me even further. And I said, what do you mean selling has nothing to do with sales? He said, that's right. Selling has nothing to do with sales. And he explained further that when you're selling something, you're doing something to somebody. He said, but when you're helping somebody, now you're doing something for somebody. And as soon as he made that statement and explained the difference between selling and helping, what it did for me was instantly take a lot of pressure off of my shoulders. Because I really think that a basic human instinct in all of us is that we want to help. But what I was doing before Bud enlightened me, what I was doing was taking a look at the product or the service that I was trying to sell to others, and I was looking at it and I was saying, what do I have to say about this to sell it? I have a mortgage, I have a car payment, I have this and that responsibility. What do I have to say to sell this? What Bud was saying was, take the same amount of time and take a look at the product and the service that you have and say, how is this going to genuinely help the other person? And as soon as you do that, as soon as you approach it from that perspective, you will be amazed at what will happen with the results. So I want to make sure that everyone, that's really the foundation. That's the basis of what I teach and what I follow every day in the selling. I mean, I call it selling, but it truly is helping. And by the word, the word in Swedish is "selvzig,"
which means to serve.
Exactly.
Isn't that good? And by the way, because you and I both spend time with Bud, and none of the people on the air with us have probably, this guy is one of the great givers of all times. Would you mind talking to that just for a second, and we'll go back to the business of the business?
He is, I tell you, he has the warmest heart. He has the biggest heart. I've known him for years and years and years, and you said it right, Mark. I mean, he is a giver, and he truly helps other people. He taught me. He gave me that instruction, that advice early on, and that certainly changed me. But he wasn't just giving me advice. He was relating to me his philosophy of life, and he has taken that into every aspect of his life. He is a devout Christian, and he gives to others. And here's a man who, I'm not talking out of school, he left home shopping at one time, and he had plenty of money in his pockets. He certainly wasn't looking for his next meal, but he went on to create another empire in the media. And at that point, he continued to give more and more and more. He is constantly giving, and he believes, I know thoroughly, in the advice that he gave me to help and not to sell, but to help. And that's how he approaches his whole life. He has foundations that are set up, and of course, he is the owner of PaxNet, which you're very, very familiar with, and he is just a super, super guy. But, I share this. Maybe those listening in right now, you have a product, maybe you have a service, maybe you just have an idea that you want to, get out there and increase in everything. Maybe you need to ask yourself, am I trying to sell it, or am I trying to help others with what I have? And when you put yourself in the mode of helping others with what you have, you will be absolutely amazed at what will happen.
Well, let me just talk for just 1 second about what we're doing, because that fits right there, and it's a perfect segue. And then I want to go to what you'll do for these people that you and I have talked about previously, not recently, but previously.
Okay.
Bob and I are trying to create 1 million millionaires this decade. By 2014, we want to have 1 million millionaires that all give $1 million back to their church or charity. Isn't that good?
I think it's absolutely phenomenal.
And it's growing like a rabbit farm on a hormone diet, so we're ecstatic. So that's our Tracy statement, so to speak, or our unique selling proposition. And then when you and I were in Florida last, which we've been together a couple times,
right.
I think each one of those meetings that we've had together have been cherishable. But what you said to me, and I think I've got permission to repeat to you because you didn't tell me I couldn't, so
right.
I'm not out of school, that if anyone listening has a great, grand, and terrific idea or product or service or innovation that they think deserves airtime on home shopping and they feel inarticulate, inadequate, vulnerable, scared, not able to present it, that you would do that and maybe do a joint venture through one of your companies that sells stuff to home shopping. Is that correct still?
You are exactly right, and I am out there
the whole enchilada then.
I am looking for the next $1 million idea for a product to sell on TV. And someone out there might be thinking, wait a minute, I don't have a warehouse filled with products that I'm trying to sell, but maybe I have an idea for something. I'm looking for that idea as well. But also keep in mind, even if you are not involved in the product business, chances are you're going to run into somebody. You're going to be talking to somebody at a social gathering, at a party, or what have you, and that person is going to have something. So there are many different ways to get involved here, but you're so right, Mark. I am looking for that next $1 million idea. My company does product evaluations absolutely free of charge, where people can submit their products, can submit their ideas, and then we go from there. And once the product is ready to go and it passes our product evaluation, then we are prepared, as we do every day of the week. We constantly, when I say we, I'm talking about my company, we constantly take products into the home shopping, the television shopping environment, and we make them work. We do this every day. We have a number of products on the air right now that are constantly being aired and constantly making money. As a matter of fact, it's a wonderful business to be in because as I'm having the honor and the pleasure of talking to you two gentlemen and everyone else listening tonight, I have a product on the air in about 5 minutes that I won't be doing, somebody else is doing for me, and I'm going to be making money.
Yeah, so it's residual income.
That's right.
Before, Bob, you give your address, both your telephone number and all that of your company, because I want everyone to get it, because let me just frame it two ways with your permission, sir. Number one is that our friend who I'm writing a book with, Art Linkletter, if he hadn't seen hula hoop and brought it back to America, he would have lost billions of dollars, and that could have been a product he brought to you if the time was now. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree with that. I have a gentleman in Miami who happens to be a hairstylist, and he came to me a year and a half ago, and he just didn't know how to market his product. He knew that he could be on television. He knew that he could sell it through that particular medium, but he had no idea how to package it and how to get it ready and how to make it sell within this particular medium. And so we did everything and put him on the air, and he was just here last week, and in a day and a half, he sold $1.7 million in products in one day. He has hairstyling products, hair shampoos and moisturizers and things of that nature. A whole line of products he has. But to sell $1.7 million in one day.
Well, see, that's what's so amazing, Bob, to the people that come to our seminars. Like we have the world's greatest, most profitable inventor invented the Band-Aid and the tampon and the disposable diaper and all that. He says if you can't sell your invention and I do it with you, I get 50, you get 50. Everybody that's come on, the world's greatest landowner, Harry Patton, has done the same thing. And people say, oh, they won't let me talk to Bob Circosta. So, Bob Circosta, give your phone number. We're going to do it twice during this thing. And you and I didn't set this up. I'm not getting any piece. Bob Allen's not getting any piece. It's just we're great friends. We'd gladly share a meal anytime, anywhere in the world. And we want more for them than they want for themselves, because whether they give you a product or not doesn't mean whether you're going to eat. I know that.
That's right. That's right.
So give your phone number and your email, please.
I'd be more than happy to. The phone number is area code 727-572-8855. That's 727-572-8855. And the website address is www.bobcircosta, that's all one word, BOBCIRCOST as in Tom A.com. And I have an email address as well, which is info, info at bobcircosta.com. So you can reach me in any of those ways, and we can talk about what you have, and you will be amazed at what just could happen.
Well, Bob and I have agreed already. We're putting you as one of our 101 stories. I'll write it up. We'll send it to you. You'll edit it, and so you're going to get millions of people reading about you world around. And
I would love it
as well. We got people listening from Nigeria and from Singapore and from some of the old Russian little empirates. It could work anywhere, right?
I love it, and I would be honored to be that. And you know what? We need to get you two on home shopping.
Well, I've already invited you to my offices and to a free breakfast, lunch, or dinner here anytime, because I want you to look over at my whole product line, tell me what we can sell, because we are ready, sir.
Would love to do it. I know. Also, Robert and I have talked about it in the past, too, and he has a great product configuration, a great product package coming out, and would be ideal, and we can talk about. But here's the thing, guys. I know that there are people that are listening right now that have that idea. They have that service. They have that product. And they're one, because, see, in my company, I teach two things. Successful sales through two things, presentation and distribution. You have to have them both. You can have the greatest product idea in the world, but if you can't present it, if you can't communicate it properly, it's not going to go anywhere. You could have the greatest product in the world, and you could be great at communicating it, but if you don't know the avenue of revenue, if you don't know the distribution, then you're not going to go anywhere with it. And that's why I focus on those two things in my company. But I'm telling you guys, I know there are people out there right now that are listening that have maybe just the idea, but it's out there.
Yeah, and just the idea can turn into millions. You've seen it again. Give another example of somebody that's done that. In just a few minutes, we get to let all of them ask you questions.
I mean, we've had people come on the air. I had a gentleman who came up with an idea for a security device, and he formed it into a light bulb. Now, imagine this for a second. It looks like a light bulb that fits into a floodlight on the outside of a house. But it's not a light. It's not a floodlight. It's an actual camera. And through that camera, it is able to send out a wireless signal that you can plug into any TV within your house. So as you're sitting in your bedroom, you can put on Channel 7, and you can see out your backyard, or you can see out the front door. He came to us with the idea, and now it has progressed, and it went on the air just about a month and a half ago. But he always had this idea, but he had a story to tell. You can't put an item like that in a box and sit it on a shelf in a store. It doesn't come to life. So we were able to breathe life into it. And there are many, many other examples.
Well, give a few more. Well, by the way, they run the gamut. Can you sell a service?
A service is a little more difficult than an actual product, but it depends upon the service.
An idea or a benefit or an entertainment?
You really need a product itself, because you have to solve a problem. Now, if you have a service that solves a problem, then you have a lot going for it. But when you're looking at products out there, you have to ask yourself, various questions. First of all, how unique is your product? Will this product or will this service that you have or idea appeal to a mass audience? So you want to ask yourself that question. And you also want to see if your product or your service is demonstrable, because things that are demonstrable on the air are the ones that really succeed.
Explain demonstrable.
Demonstrable, you're able to demonstrate it. If I have an item that I put on a stain on a carpet, you see the stain, then I apply the product, and then the stain is gone. That is demonstrable. That is, I was on the air this morning, as a matter of fact, with a water filter that you hook up to your faucet. Now, people are going to say, well, yeah, but those are all over the place. This water filter is so unique and so different because it filters through 7,500 gallons. What does that mean to you? That means that you're never going to have to replace a water filter. You're never going to have to go out and buy a water filter cartridge for 7, 8, or even 10 years. And you imagine the savings. So we had a demonstration on the water, on the show. So when you're thinking about the product that you would like to get on the air, that's another question you need to ask. Is it demonstrable? Can we bring it to life on the air? But what problem does your product solve? And I say product, I mean service or idea in the same sense. What problem are you solving? All right, and then we get into the benefits, and then you get, I mean, there are a whole list of questions that I go through that you need to ask yourself, because we put products and services and ideas through a very stringent evaluation process.
Define benefits, and then let's hear your questions as best you can off the top of your head.
Well, when I talk to somebody about selling, and I do seminars for non-TV related companies as well, I mean insurance companies, real estate companies, I have a non-TV seminar that I do, how to position your product, your service, your idea for success, that we do to groups and everything, and we find out how to create the need for what you have. Maybe it's an idea that you're trying to sell. Maybe you want to get better at selling real estate. Maybe you want to get better at selling insurance. You know, we have a whole system that we share, but you know, it's based on, as I said earlier, helping other people with what you have. But I first really believe that before somebody can understand how to be a great salesperson, you have to first understand why people buy. And
why do they buy?
And if you understand why people buy, you're going to know how to help them more effectively. And people buy only based on one reason, and one reason only. And I don't care if it's through a television or if it's across a table. And that one reason that people buy happens to be based on emotion. It's based on emotion. People buy based on emotion, and they justify with the facts later. Now, that's not to say the facts are not important. I don't want anybody to misunderstand me. Facts are important. As a matter of fact, I say that facts provide the information, but the emotion provides the interpretation. And what I mean by that is, if the person that you're sitting across the table from, or the person that's watching me on television, if they're accepting everything that I say on an emotional level, but I'm out there giving them purely a factual level, telling them what is so great about what I have, purely on a factual and an informational level, I'm not going to do anything wrong, but we're never going to make that connection. And if we don't make that emotional connection, we're never going to get a response from the person that we're talking to. It's almost like if I have a laptop computer, and let's say I'm typing up a Word document on that, and I have Microsoft Word, and I type the document, I put it on a disk, I give you that disk, you put that disk in your computer. You don't have Microsoft Word. You have something else. When you bring up that document, you can't read it. Now, I didn't do anything wrong. Everything that I did was right. I typed it correctly, but I gave you something in a way that you couldn't receive it. And the same is true in the selling process. And we have to ask ourselves, are we giving information, and then our communication, is it in a way that the other person that we're talking to can't receive it? They're waiting for emotion. If you give them facts, and no emotion, they're going to say, well, that's interesting, but they're not going to respond. It goes back to the wonderful home shopping viewer who gets up in the morning. She doesn't roll out of bed and say first thing, today I've got to buy a diamond ring. She doesn't say that or think that, but when that diamond ring comes on later in the day, she responds, and there's a reason why, because the emotional connection has been made. So when you're thinking about what you have, when you're thinking about what you want to sell, you have to think in terms of emotion, because you've got to think in terms of why people buy, not just because of how you want to sell it. And the only way to create that emotional connection is to go to what you said a moment ago, Mark, and that is features and benefits. And I define them, and I get into when to use them to maximize their return. We get into all of that.
Good. Well, give an example of the best benefit you've ever seen.
The benefits, I tell you what, I was selling one day a corner shelf on the air. And this was a shelf that you could put up in any corner of your house. And all you do is put this shelf in the corner, and once you have it stationed in the corner, you twist a little dial underneath, and a nail comes out of each side and also in the front, and instantly you have a shelf where you never had one before in just a matter of a few seconds. And so one day I'm selling the shelf, and I'm kind of thinking, okay, a shelf is a shelf is a shelf. What could be so emotional about a shelf? And then a lady called up on the air, and I said, how do you like your shelf? She said, let me tell you about this shelf. Before I had this shelf, I had all the pictures of my grandkids tucked away in a drawer somewhere. But since I have that shelf, I have their pictures displayed every day so I can look at them and enjoy them every single day. So you see, to her, this wasn't a shelf. This was a way for her to enjoy her grandkids. It wasn't a shelf anymore. So the question comes up with what you have that you want to sell, a product, service, or idea. How is it going to help the person that you're talking to? What is it going to enable the person that you're talking to get? You have to look further. You have to look beyond what you have, and you have to look at how it's going to truly help the other person.
Cool. With your permission, we now open it up to the whole group to ask you questions. Is that okay with you?
Oh, I would love it, by all means.
I love it, and it goes so fast you won't believe it. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you who have been on with us before know the strategy that I use. There may be a better one, but the one I use is that you say your name and what city you're from. I acknowledge you, and then only one person asks my dear friend Bob Circosta a question, and then we have him answer while it's on a presentation mode, and then we go on. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the question right now for Bob. Anyone? Anyone got a question for Bob? Have I muted anyone? Anyone got a question for Bob? Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Your name is?
Marty in Nevada City.
So take it away, Marty. Your question for Bob.
Hi, Bob.
Hi, Marty.
Yes, I had a question I've got a book on adoption. I'm an adoption professional, and I found that people are very much interested in adoption. Infertility is in all high numbers right now, and people wanting to adopt later in life. Would this be a product you think would be okay for presenting on the home shopping?
Yes, I think it would. I think it has to be structured in a way, though, to where it is done in a way, a purely beneficial way to the audience, because on a home shopping channel, a television channel, you're dealing with a lot of jewelry items and electronic items and gadgets and gizmos and things like that. And when you get into the subject matter that you're talking about, it really creates a little shift in attention and explanation. And the television shopping industry is all based upon time. Everything has to be done very, very quickly, and that includes getting the callers to call in and respond very quickly. And my only challenge with what you're mentioning to me would be that it may take more time than they want to explain it. But I can't answer that until I really see the book and see how we could position it on the air. And I would love for you to email me and give me more information.
Okay, next question. Your name, I heard it as screen, but no name. Hello?
Hello, Bob.
Hello?
Your name, please. I need your name and city.
Priscilla from Brooklyn.
Take it away, Priscilla from Brooklyn.
Can Bob just spell his last name again slowly for his website?
Yes, I'd be more than happy to, Priscilla. You can get me on email at info, at, and here comes the spelling of the name, B-O-B, of course. Last name is spelled C-I-R-C-O-S-T-A. T as in Tom, A.com.
So it's Bob Circosta, BOBCIRCOSTA.com.
Thank you.
Question, please. Somehow this didn't work very well tonight. Question.
Hello, this is Norm from New York.
Mm-hmm. Take it away, Norm from New York.
How are you?
Good.
Hey, Bob, I've really enjoyed listening to you. This is great.
Well, thanks, Norm. Good to have you out there. How can I help you?
Well, I'm one of the protégés, obviously, and I'm just listening, actually for the first time, and I'm writing down everything that you've been saying. And what came into my mind is you said for helping people.
Yes.
And I have a friend of mine that came to me the other day talking about he and his brother have a clothing line that they want to start.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to give them this information.
Mm-hmm.
And would it be something that you would be, interested in? It's a kind of a trendy sort of clothing line, but they have the prospectus right now. I mean, would it need to be in the initial stage or finished?
Well, clothing is a huge industry within the television shopping business. Clothing does very, very well. You have to create, though, an identity with the clothing. So it has to have a specific brand to it. You have to watch out also in the clothing line. There are a lot of returns, and you have to take a look at that so you can keep your profit margins where they should be to allow for the returns. But Norm, I mean, the clothing business is huge, and there's it's being done every single day on the air, and I would love to advise you further on it.
Okay, so Bob, tell me, who is your demographic? What is the biggest amount of viewers? You don't have little kids watching, so Your average age is what to what, male to female, and the average product size that they buy.
Right. The average viewer goes anywhere from 45 to 50 years and up on television shopping. It is predominantly female. And the average household is anywhere between $70,000 to $80,000. So there's a lot of discretionary income, but it is basically female that is watching and happens to be the buyer.
Okay, next question, please.
John Myers from New Hampshire.
Ellen Fleming.
From New Hampshire first, and then the lady. John?
Hello, this is Craig Peterson calling from New Hampshire. I have a number of different computer security products, and I have an appliance that we've designed that's being used by businesses to help protect computers. And we're looking to put it together for home users as well. And basically what it'll allow them to do is just plug it into their computer and stop all of the lawsuits from the RIAA, stop them from getting to sites that the kids shouldn't be getting to and doing other things they shouldn't be doing online. And it's just a little device that they plug in literally right into their cable modem or into their DSL line, and it does everything automatically and also provides remote control.
I love it. Was your first name John?
Craig, I think.
Craig, I love the idea. I want to know more about it. Computers, another big product category in television home shopping. As a matter of fact, last Saturday we had a computer on the air. It was not from my company, but there was a computer on the air, and they did over $17 million in one day. So there are a lot of people out there buying computers, and something that you allude to here certainly solves a problem. Was
it the whole computer that you were selling?
They were. I was not doing it. It was on the air, and they did the whole computer system with the speakers and all the software and thing. I think it was around close to $2,000, maybe $1,800 price point.
Okay, good. What is the biggest product sales day in category? How much money and what category? You don't have to tell the exact product if you don't want to.
No, it would have to be in the computer category. However, I remember years ago, and some of the listeners may recall, there was a sunken ship off of the west coast of Florida called the Etosha, and we were able to get a couple of coins from that treasure, and we put them on the air. Of course, they were one of a kind, obviously, but we did them, and we were selling them at almost $30,000 to $40,000 a minute. So that was one of the highest ones. Computers, I would say, because of the average price point, is always up there in gross dollars. Very, very popular.
And it doesn't matter if it's a computer name brand or not?
No, it does not matter. Does not matter. If you show me how your computer is going to help me and benefit me and make me more organized and make my life a lot easier, I want what you have.
Wahoo. Okay, next.
Bob, this
yes.
is Ellen Fleming from Michigan.
I'm sorry, the first name?
Ellen.
Ellen, hi, nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you. This has been a wonderful presentation tonight.
Well, thank you.
I have a hairstylist who is out of this world, and he has developed a model of how to structure a hairpiece with people with hair diseases that have taken their hair off, that, will never come back.
Sure.
And is this something that could be marketable? There are so many people that have this sense that they need to look good to present themselves for society.
Yeah, it is a great category. It's presently being offered. It is a very big category. As a matter of fact, when I was on the air this morning in the dressing room was a good friend of mine by the name of Tony Bratton, and Tony has a hairline on the air, and she was on this morning selling them. They are, accessory pieces, but if your individual has a unique one, if there's something unique and different about it.
Unique.
Pardon me?
It is unique.
Okay, I would love to hear more about it, sure. Sure. If the question is it saleable and marketable in this particular medium, the answer is definitely yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thanks for joining,
please.
John Myers from Los Angeles.
Take it away, John.
Could you please go over the business model? Who does the shipping? What the cuts are?
what's the lowest amount of money that we could charge?
Mm-hmm. Okay, it all depends upon product category, John, but usually across the board it's a 50-50. In other words, if Home Shopping is going to sell it for $20 on the air, they want to buy it for $10. But that being said, the margin is going to change according to product category. Some skincare lines and things like that, the margins are a lot different. Electronics, it's not as high because the markup is not there for electronic-type items. But you can say, generally speaking, across the board, it's a 50-50 situation. So once again, if they're selling it for $20 on the air, then they want to buy it for $10. If that product costs you $7, then you've made $3. It's just that simple. That's how it works. As far as shipping, they send it out, and they charge the customer for shipping. Well, when you get going and you establish yourself in this particular medium, they will let you do something they call drop ship. In other words, you will control the merchandise, and you'll receive information from the television shopping channel. We sold 58 of these. Here's where you need to ship 58 of them, and then you ship directly to the customer. But that only happens after you're established in the business. You have to, at the beginning, if they're going to order 1,000 widgets from you, they will tell you, the shopping channel will say where to send those widgets. They will come and they will pick them up, and they will put 800 of them in one warehouse and 200 of them in another one of their warehouses. But they will pick up the widgets, and they'll take care of that. They have to be in-house in order for them to sell them on the air. Did that answer all your questions?
It's like a direct mail law, then?
Yeah, basically, right. And one very important thing to keep in mind, it's a guaranteed sale. What does that mean? It's a guaranteed sale. It's not what you think. It's if you sell the shopping channel, if they take and they order 2,000 of what you have, and it goes on the air, and they end up only selling 1,000, they are going to send those other 1,000 back to you. You are going to get those back. However, this is after they make every imaginable effort to sell all 2,000. So they're not going to just put it on once or twice and say, well, that didn't work, you're going to get everything back. But you do run the risk of getting the merchandise back.
So it's on consignment, basically?
Yes, basically, yes.
Yeah. So
what you want to do, you don't want to go in too heavy at the beginning. What you want to do is because if you're sitting with a buyer and the buyer says, you know what, I'd like to have 10,000 of those, the natural response is going to be you're going to get very excited, 10,000. Well, maybe you should have only brought them 5,000 and then sell out, and then once the sellout's created, then you can go ahead and order down the road. So you have to be very careful at the beginning of the ordering process.
Who's the biggest person that's ever sold anything that you know of in the whole of shopping channel history?
The biggest person? You mean the most famous?
Yeah.
Well, Suzanne Summers is on the air at Home Shopping right now. She does extremely well. She sells practically everything from household goods to clothing to exercise equipment to jewelry. She does extremely well. But we have had, over the years, we've had so many different celebrities on the air that sell products, and we still have quite a few. But it used to be we had a lot of different celebrities. A mutual friend of ours, Ed McMahon, was on the air.
Ed on this call.
Pardon me?
I've had Ed on this call.
Oh,
People all loved him.
What a guy.
And all that.
What a pro. He is just the best.
Love Ed.
Yes. Love the man.
Yeah. How'd you know he and I were friends?
I read something, because I read about you all the time, Mark.
Well, I know. Well, we love each other. I read about you all the time, too. I got a whole proof sheet in front of me. You're the $1 billion man. You've been on 50,000 live selling.
You know, Mark, talking about
5,000 product presentations. I mean, are you goofing off or what?
You ought to see what I do in my spare time, you know? But talking about celebrities, I remember way back at the beginning when we first went nationwide in the mid-'80s, the home shopping business was really did not have a good perceived value. People really didn't want to go on home shopping. And I remember one very famous celebrity who came on in the early days. I'm not going to say her name, but very famous celebrity that we would all recognize. She said to me before we went on the air, she was selling jewelry, and she said to me, I hope nobody sees me. And I said, why? They said, my career will be ruined if they see me doing this. And so after the first show, when she put about $700,000 in her pocket, she said, when's our next show? When can we do this again? and then we couldn't get her off the air. So, but in the very early days, the home shopping business was not really looked upon as a great business. But times have definitely changed, and it's very different now.
Do some people get overwhelmed just watching? And how do you guys cultivate an audience? It's 24/7, and then we'll go back to online to the people.
Well, it's all built upon a relationship, and it's not just selling through television, but any type of sales is built upon relationship. I remember way back in those early days on the radio and local television here in Florida, when somebody would order something, if they happened to live on my way home, I'd stop at their house and deliver the products. And chances are I'd stop and have dinner while I was there. Now, that was really, truly relationship selling. But this is all built upon relationships. And we develop relationships in the home shopping business with people that call in, and we recognize their voices because they call in a lot and they order that way. And really, it's a friendship. I remember a long time ago, we would take phone calls on the air. And I remember one day I was selling an exercise bike, and I was on the air, and they said I had a phone call, and I said, "Hi, you're on the air with Bob, and your first name?" And she said, "Nancy." And I said, "Nancy, where do you live?" She said, "Chicago." I said, "How are you, Nancy?" She said, "Well, I'm in labor." And I paused. I said, "What labor? Do you mean like labor as in baby labor?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "How far apart are the pains?" And she said, "Well, they're about 8, 9 minutes, and my mother's here, and my sister's here." And so I happened to be, have just gone through Lamaze with my wife, and I started giving her breathing exercises on the air, and pretty soon the foreign voice came on the phone and said, "Got to go," and hung up. And the rest of that day, we were inundated with people that called up and said, "What happened to Nancy? Did she have the baby?" And so the next day, we found out from her mother that she had a baby boy, and she named it Bob. Believe it or not, that's a true story, and we communicate and still do, during the holidays and things. So it's a relationship. A relationship was started, and that relationship is key to. I'm sorry, I'm taking up, I know, a lot of time here.
No, but it's cute. Just one more cute thing, just like that. I had the same experience. I go talk at this giant church. I'm sitting in the back with Mickey Rooney. A lady comes up and says, "I named my baby after you," and I was in a funny mood because I was with Mickey Rooney, and he was making me crack up. Church hadn't started yet. And the lady, I said, "So what's the baby's name?" She said, "Mark Victor Pancake." And her last name is literally Pancake, and so is the baby. And I was not in the right headset for somebody to name a kid after me. I mean, if you'd been sitting with Mickey, just like if you sit with Ed McMahon, he's very, very funny.
Oh, I've done a couple of shows with Mickey, and he is hilarious.
Yeah, and it'll get you in trouble.
Oh,
I can't blame Mickey for that, but I've apologized to that lady profusely.
That's a great story.
Isn't it cute? Okay, next question. Anyone got a question?
Yes.
Oops.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead. Your name?
This is Linda from Atlanta.
Take it away, Linda from Atlanta.
I'm wondering about food items. We have a service similar to 1-800-Flowers. We do cake delivery. We have a cake wiring service where we work with thousands of bakeries all across the country. I'm wondering, and this would appeal to a lot of the college mothers that send their kids away that want to give them care packages and things like that across the country.
Linda, food is another great category in the home shopping business, and people are just starting to really get comfortable in ordering food via the television because there's a trust factor and all of that's involved. But I would have to say it's one of the fastest growing product categories in the television shopping business. You turn on QVC, you turn on HSN, you turn on Shop at Home, all the other channels, you will see food on the air more and more because
what kind of foods, Bob?
We're talking about everything from seafood to steaks to hamburgers. I mean, you name it, they've really had it on the air. Sausage, candies, chocolate. I mean, so much out there. So, Linda, there's no doubt. I'd like to know more about the service. If you wouldn't mind emailing me and give me a little more information, that'd be great.
And that's info@bobcircosta.com. Next question.
Hi, this is Brain here.
The man's voice, please. Your name again?
Yes, this is Barun Grain here from British Columbia in Canada.
Great. Barun, what's your question for Bob?
Thanks, Bob. I really enjoyed talking about the concept of selling based on emotions. My question is, can we use the same concept to sell products or services to companies?
Oh, there's no question, Barun. No question at all. As a matter of fact, one of my most popular seminars has not to do with television whatsoever. It's based on finding out how to create that need through the emotion, learning the formula that I share with people about selling for the same reasons that people buy, and knowing what to say, when to say it, and so forth. So yeah, I mean, the emotion has to be there. I can show you. If we had time to sit down for a couple of hours, I can show you, no matter what your product, no matter what your service, no matter what your idea is, I can show you how to position it so people will want what you have. I guarantee you.
Okay, next.
I have a question. I'm from London, Ontario, Canada.
Your name in Ontario, London, Ontario?
Derek.
Derek, take it away, Derek.
Okay, I have a great idea that will solve problems that happen every single day in every house.
Okay.
Now, it's not something like it's not really a product I don't know if it would sell well on TV.
Okay.
But it's something that could be really sold to a company, to companies.
Okay.
To better their product.
Okay. And I understand if you really don't want to specify about it because of others list or whatever. I mean, yeah, you can just email me with it. Sure. I'll give you my honest opinion.
Give me an idea of what to do next?
Yeah, just email me with the idea.
Okay, great.
And then I'll give you my opinion, and maybe it's not right for the television medium. Maybe it's better for print. Maybe it's better for radio. Maybe I deal with identifying avenues of revenue, the distribution, as I said earlier, presentation and distribution. You got to have those two things.
Bob, go through, and I know now I'm going to be hard for just a second, and it's no disrespect to you, but why are these people going to trust you? They've never heard you. You're a disincarnate voice. You and I are pals, but we could be in cahoots for all they know.
Why would they trust me?
I thought about it until that guy's question.
Yeah,
so I'm not.
Hey, it's an honest question. It's a very legitimate question. I guess what I have to say in response is that I have built my reputation for 25 or 26 years based on that trust. I speak every day about trust. The whole basis for my selling is built upon trust and sincerity. I'm very, very visible within the electronic retailing business and the home shopping business. And if anybody wants references from me, I'm more than happy to give them to them. I've been out there. I've done it. I had the very good fortune to be there, as you said, at the very beginning of the industry, and one of the individuals who helped create it. To be very honest with you, I don't need the money. And I don't say that egotistically at all. But I really don't. And I don't do this for the money. I really, truly, and I believe it, I really want to help others. I love to see others succeed. And if we can do it together, that's wonderful.
Cool. Next question. Thank you.
Linda from Pelham.
Take it away, Linda.
Go.
Yes, Bob, hi. Does there need to be a patent pending for a particular new product?
It's always good if you do have a patent pending for yourself or for your own protection. I have no problem myself in signing any non-disclosure papers. If anybody sends me a non-disclosure statement you want me to sign before you send me information about your product, I have no problem in doing that whatsoever. It's always good to have a patent pending. However, if you don't and you have the idea and you want to do the non-disclosure route, that'll work too, Linda.
Bob, let's go the other direction. Let's say she has the greatest idea ever, and it's maybe not patentable, and it's not. Also, she hadn't got it manufactured. Are you willing to help her find a manufacturer? Because you guys have done that, I know, in the past.
Oh yeah. We deal with manufacturers. We have many people who bring us prototypes. I have not been in that quite, for 20 years. I've been in it maybe for the past 3 or 4 years, where people bring us prototypes and we hook them up with manufacturers. I have a gentleman who has a hair accessory item that he, came to us with, and he had it patented and everything, but he had no way to, manufacture it or raise the money in which to do so, and we were able to help him in both areas.
You don't have a way to grow balding heads, do you? Sorry, I'm not sensitive. I don't mind making fun. I say there's 4 kinds of hair: in, thin, fuzz, and was, and I'm just was.
Thank you.
I love you, Mark. I love you.
Lady's voice, please, first. Your name? The lady's voice first.
Mark?
Yeah, your name, please.
This is
is Nancy from Rochester, Minnesota.
Take it away, Nancy.
This has been an interesting call, but I have an idea for you. Can I have your 800 number?
Oh, sure. I can give you the office number.
My 800 number or Bob?
Mark's. I love the call with Bob, but I've got an idea for Mark.
Yes, by all means.
Yeah, Bob doesn't mind if you give me good ideas.
No.
Okay. Maybe back to Bob if it's good.
Okay, 1-800.
Soup book, SOUPBOK, hit 0 once you got in.
Say that again?
800 soup, SOUPBOOK. The K drops off and you dial it.
SOUPOK.
BOOK, soup book, like chicken soup book, soup book.
Okay.
Thank you. Next question. Oops. Bob,
I'm getting a lot of interference now.
On these wild lines.
Yeah.
So, Bob, we're almost closed down anyhow. We got about 3 minutes left.
Already? That's all?
Yeah, I know. Didn't I tell you the time disappeared?
My goodness. Let me just take a second here to just tell you how enjoyable this has been, and I just think the world of you two guys. I mean, I've had the pleasure to meet you guys and work with you guys, and for those that are listening right now, if you don't have the opportunity or have not had the opportunity to know Mark and Robert personally, let me tell you, you've got to do that, because these two guys, you talk about helping other people, these two guys sincerely other people. There's no question about it. And so it's an absolute honor to be with you two, and I thank you for inviting me.
Well, we love it too. So in the brief minute that we have left, and don't hang off, because we're going to have thousands of people saying thanks to you all at once. This is something you can't get on live TV. But right. What is the most important advice you can give? Distill everything down to a minute and run by the whole business model so everyone's got it.
Okay, I would have to go back to what I said earlier, the advice that was given to me almost 20 years ago, and that is when you're selling something, you're doing something to somebody, but when you're helping somebody, you're doing something for somebody. Take whatever product you have in mind, whatever service, or whatever idea that you have in mind, and look at it from the perspective of what problem is it going to solve, and how is it going to genuinely help the other person. That's how you look at it, because if you sell for the same reasons that people buy, and if you truly solve their problem